Coming up, some terrific scenes in movies that didn't live up to expectations. Batman v Superman was one of the most hyped movies of the year. Apparently, the film turned out to be one of the major disappointments, both critically and commercially. The film is a complete mess, all over the place in tone. But it was one of those rare moments when a film completely grabs you, out of the blue, even though for a very brief period of time. The warehouse fight scene is just an absolutely thrilling power-packed action sequence that just lets you forget the mess the film was. Over the years, many people have come out in support of The Godfather Part 3, and a good chunk of people consider the film to be an underrated classic, with many claiming that the Corleone family needed an organic conclusion and the third installment was a fitting end to the trilogy. I for one could never bring myself to sympathizing with this film, as it destroys every single element that made The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2 two of the greatest films ever made in cinema. This one scene, however, gave a redeeming quality to the film. Michael goes to confess his sins over to the priest, and in an emotionally gripping moment, he breaks down after confessing to have committed the murder of the film. It's just the kind of scene that brings back the class, subtlety and raw emotional power of its prequels for a very brief moment. Yes, a Quentin Tarantino film makes the list. Death Proof is undoubtedly one of his weakest works. Tarantino's love for slasher/exploitation cinema is visible in every frame, but the film comes off as way too self-indulgent at most places with its overlong dialogues and fails to captivate you with bland characterization and some scenes that add nothing to the plot. The famous car chase sequence just brings Tarantino back to his best elements, and it was just the kind of punch the entire film was lacking. It's just quintessential Tarantino, tense, exciting and plain fun. An undeniably beautiful scene in an otherwise mediocre film. M. Night Shyamalan's The Village suffers from a downright terrible plot twist that ruins the entire film. But there's a scene where Lucius snatches Ivy's hand before the monster approaches her and moves her inside. Using slow motion and a captivating score by James Newton Howard, Shyamalan crafts a stunning scene of inexplicable beauty and humanity in a film that has disappointed us in many ways. Alex Proyas, knowing, excels in crafting an eerie atmosphere and tries to build on a few interesting ideas, but ultimately ends up being a massive disappointment. It tells the story of a professor who obtains an encrypted set of codes from a time capsule which convinces him that he avert disasters and catastrophes. There are quite a few mesmerizing scenes in the film, but the one that is truly brilliant comes off as the plane crash scene. An incredible amount of uneasiness builds onto the scene leading up to the moment, as it terrifies you in a long shot where the protagonist looking to save people he can. Deep Blue Sea is a film that has become so hilariously entertaining in all its absurdities. Every single aspect of the film is well beneath the very definition of mediocre cinema. The film tells the story of a team of researchers who are working hard to find a cure for Alzheimer's disease. The research process demands them to work with sharks, and this puts them in serious danger. Samuel Jackson, as Russell Franklin, comes off as the film's biggest star and leads the way in taking on the sharks with an inspiring speech to pump his group up. But before he finishes, a huge shark bursts out and pulls him into the water. A shocking moment in an otherwise bad film. George Lucas' epic soap opera couldn't quite live up to its massive expectations 16 years after its final installment in the trilogy. The Phantom Menace was the first installment of the Star Wars prequel trilogy and began to become more of a cultural phenomenon from here on. The visuals took on as the writing went on to become increasingly weaker as the series progressed. However, Darth Maul's epic lightsaber duel makes up for everything, as the sequence revives the enthralling, magical, entertaining power of its earlier installments and reminds us that Lucas is still very much in his elements. The prequel trilogy hasn't been as satisfying as its original, but nevertheless this is a scene that would remain etched in the memory of every Star Wars fan. A thoroughly disappointing sequel to one of the greatest adventure dramas of all time, The Lost World, Jurassic Park, is one of Steven Spielberg's misfires. The film lacks the enthralling cinematic power of its original and compromises a whole lot on the content, as the characters are poorly etched out and we never really find ourselves investing in them. However, this was the one scene that made me realize I was witnessing the sequel to a truly great film. It's the sequence where the T-Rex makes it to the city and causes mayhem on the streets in what is an absolutely nail-biting moment of pure scintillating piece of cinema that keeps me on the edge every time I see it. Oliver Stone's Any Given Sunday tells the story of a passionate, veteran football coach dealing with his team's losses and his own inner conflicts. Any Given Sunday is a film made with passion and heart but has some genuine pacing issues and some memorable scenes scattered across its feeble narrative. Nearing its end, Tony D'Amato, played by Al Pacino, gives an inspiring speech to pump his team up one last time. A melancholic guitar solo intensifies in the background as Pacino's speech gradually sinks in and begins to resonate with the players on a deeply emotional level. Stone beautifully captures the scene at its heart, hypnotizing you with the sheer passion and emotional vigor running through D'Amato's words. That was our show for today. What do you think? Did you agree with our list? Did you like some of these movies? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and while you're at it, why not subscribe to my channel for more content and check out my Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter franchise also in the comments below. Until next time, this is Andrew in for Kevin Given saying live long and prosper. May the force be with you and keep reaching for the stars.